What if you statistically knew for a fact it was 99 no's to get to the yes? What if you knew that? What if you knew it's 99 no's to get to the yes? How quickly would you try to burn through the no's? And if you know that that's a possibility, it's X number of no's before you get to the yes, so many of you are just not asking. Like, you've got to get through the rejection phase in order to get to the acceptance.
How many times in your life have things actually been perfect and then you were like, everything is perfect right now, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z? Like, that never actually happens, right? That just doesn't even happen. So that is a big fat lie that you tell yourself, because 99.9% of everything that you do every single day, you're doing it without hesitation, and it's not perfect. Majority of you woke up this morning and things did not go perfect, right? But did that stop you from getting here, or did you make it, right? So that's just a big fat crutch. It's a big fat lie. I am a perfectionist. I hear people say that all the time, but I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, I get it. Go into my house. I have a little bit of OCD, and I could use that as a crutch too, but that's a fat lie, because there's so many things that I do that I don't wait on perfection for. Most things in my life I don't wait on perfection for. So you have to be able to be real with yourself and say, I am saying that, or if you find yourself saying that often, that is your crutch. That is your out. That is your justification that you don't actually want to do something.
The biggest shift is going to be that you are going to have to possess relationship capital, that will become the primary currency following the pandemic. That it wouldn't be the dollar. So if you're holding a lot of dollars, like, you're probably worried, inflation, devaluation of the money. But how many of you know a value of your relationship capital? So most of you are just trying to accumulate as much of it as you can. And if we were talking finances, is that a good idea? Just get as much as you can. So if we were talking finances and we had Eric come up here and we were like, so my financial plan is just make as much as I can, he'd be like, well, that's a bad plan. Mm-hmm. And he'd say you should have a plan. And what the plan is going to be determined by your outcomes, your vision. What are you trying to create? And so once you can cast the vision and you say, well, look, I want to have 6 homes. I want to pay for my kids' college education. I want to be able to take care of my parents. I want to make sure that if anything happens to me, Lacey will be taken care of. Once you outline your goals, then a plan is created in order to help you to leverage your currency to get there. Well, we are going to invest here, we're going to allocate here, and with the return on investment, we'll be able to create this. You're going to have to then generate this much to fill in the gaps, etc. It's like your crypto wallets. It's like your Coinbase account. You go into Coinbase and you look at it. How many of you do that? And you're like, hope it's up, and then it goes up, and you're like, wow, right? Where are you checking your relationship capital?
If we're moving into relationship selling, that means that we also have to identify the people that we're trying to get into relationship with, the relationship that we're trying to open. And personality-based selling is very important if you're trying to get into relationship with people. If you are understanding your ideal client well enough, you should also understand what personality type they have. I read this book, and it was called Why They Buy by Cherry Tree. And in this book, she went in depth on 4 general personality types. What I loved about this book is I felt like it encompassed a lot of the ideal clients that you guys come up with. So the 4 different types are analytical, assertive, nurturing, and knowledge. You need to look at everything that you put out, your emails, your social media content, your office space, whatever it is, you need to look at it through the eyes of somebody that doesn't know you. And if you could just shift that perspective and look at it that way, like a potential prospect, a potential lead, what would they see? Then you would capture more leads instead of just continually reinforcing the people that already love you.
I saw this stat. There's this website called Udemy. If you're familiar with it, Udemy, you can buy courses on it. 95% of all people who buy a Udemy course do not complete it. So I was like, dang, you know what that means? Here's the good news. If you just did something, you're ahead of 95% of the world.
I'd rather send 25 emails over 25 weeks, right? So you have to get consistent with the things that you do. And that's what we're learning. It's like, oh, you don't know if it's going to work? No, but we're just consistently testing. We're just putting out tons of information. We're consistently putting out content. We're consistently doing $1 a day ads. Consistent, right? Like, what can we do consistently? And you have to ask yourself too, when we're talking about starting, the next step is being consistent. Right? So how many things have I started and then I'm just not also consistent on, right? That's why they don't work.
I don't care if it took you longer. Like, if you were actually doing it, if we were doing a task and it took longer, that's okay. Just do things. Doesn't matter if it takes longer, but you were doing it. What's worse is that you weren't doing it. You procrastinated, you put it on the back burner, you left the tab open. 100% of what you do right now gets done.
How do you stop being so consumed with your future self and be more consumed with your present self? And so that's what we want you to take away this weekend is what do I want to create? Who do I want to be now? And you've heard very successful people say that, you have to be present. You have to be present in the moment. You have to be present with your clients. You have to be present when you're in a relationship with people. You have to be present in your experiences, but you have to be present with yourself. That's really what that comes down to. And so that's what I'm always saying. You got to take an audit, a real-time audit of who am I today? And is that person the same person that I'm trying to create in the future? Because if it's not, that future self will never exist. Because it has to be the present self to ever get there, right?
Most of you actually think that you are analytics. A lot of you say that, well, I'm an analytic. Oh, really? What was your revenue last month? What was your conversion rate? How many new clients did you see? What was it the quarter before? What is your rolling 1 year revenue, trailing revenue? What's your trailing new client? What's your
percentage of increase from January last year to January this year?
You're not that analytical.
Yeah.
Analytics know that. And I'm talking about something that's really important to you, your business. That's how you live. And when you don't manage analytics on your own business, you're not that analytical. You're lying to yourself to make a story about you're not that analytical. The reason why I said that's how you find out if someone's analytic.
An analytical is a very put together, organized person. So if you want to attract that person into your world, how do you think you need to show up? You need to be super put together. You need to probably dress better than them. You need to always be on time, because these are people that will book their appointments way in advance, right? Because they want it in their calendar. You can't show up late, because if you do, you lose instant credibility with somebody that's going to analyze everything. You probably also need to be very organized and, again, have super clear, easy systems for them to follow. So I think it's super important, if you like the analytical person, that you also say, do I show up correctly for them?
To be a coach, you do not ever have to have done it. So many coaches in athletics that didn't win the championship when they played. They were marginally good as an athlete, but they're phenomenally good as a coach because they have the ability to communicate and teach how to do the thing. So the coach does not have to have done the thing. The second thing is mentorship. Mentorship is guidance from somebody who has done the thing. Now, if I was a young college athlete going into the NFL playing quarterback, I would love to have Tom Brady as a mentor. Now, Tom Brady might be a terrible coach. I don't know that. He could be a terrible coach, but he would make a great mentor. You know why? He already did the thing. He was like, let me tell you what happens, right, when this happens. Let me tell you what happens when the media comes. Let me tell you, right? So mentorship is someone that did the thing and they're providing you with mentorship because they've done it. That's very different than coaching. Coaching is instruction on how to do the thing. You need to also figure out then in this seeking validation, do I have the right team of coaches and mentors? Inside of all of that is finding people that have formulas that work. But what we've really found is nobody has a formula that works. What there are aggressive testers. The people that we have elevated up to, the people spending $100,000 a month in Facebook ads and ad spends, they just test. They test probably 30 pieces of ad content a week. They just test until they find the one, and then they push chips in on the one. Ask us what was the trajectory, and you would emulate the trajectory, including the mistakes. Oh, look at so-and-so, he's rich, but he was bankrupt, so what I want to do is not be bankrupt but still be rich. Yeah, but you will never have the lessons that they learned from going through that process. So if I'm going to be bankrupt, should I be bankrupt when I'm 26 or when I'm 52? That's one thing I tell all the young people. When you're young, you should take all the risks. As you get older, your runway shortens, you have less ability to take risks. Even in emulating the trajectory, a lot of it is emulating some of the pitfalls. You know the pitfall is there, and so it doesn't hurt you as bad. You know the pitfall is there, so you're able to see it earlier. You're right away, you're like, yep, and you're able to move on. And the most important thing, learn.
I did this in This Girl is on Fire, my Facebook group, when we first started it. Actually asked all of the women in the group, what is your favorite pump me up song? And then created a playlist with all of the songs that they chose. You could literally ask your ideal client, what are your favorite songs? Use their songs that they tell you and put that on a playlist and just put it on repeat in your office. Will they love it when they come in? Absolutely.
High net worth individuals are concerned about time. That's how I can just totally tell. I look at, and think about some of you that have come up and talked to us during a break. Do you think we're more concerned, Sean and Lacey, about money or about time? Time. And you guys are respectful of that. Nobody walks up to me and is like, hey dude, like I don't want to waste your money. Well, I'm not paying you. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to, I want to be respectful of your time, right? Because that's the most important commodity, time. If you can solve for time, you can charge whatever you want because they have the money. You guys keep trying to solve for money. You're in the complete wrong game. You need to solve for time. Hey, dude, you could do this plan. This plan is $5,000 and it takes 6 months to complete. Or you could do this one. This one ends in 7 days, but it's $30,000. And the high net worth individual will take the $30,000 every day and twice on Sunday. Have you all noticed that in the service world, service is terrible? And it's all because of COVID, right? And I said that pre-COVID. When you guys were like, what are we going to do? I was like, just keep saying it's all because of COVID. Well, now everybody's like, that's the excuse to be terrible. Like, oh, I'm sorry, it took 5 hours to get your steak, but supply chain.
COVID and supply chain, yeah.
Like, it's all these excuses. So here's the crazy thing. If you can be phenomenal at service, you can command whatever amount of money you want. So I get so many questions like, well, should I have a podcast and what should I talk about? Yes, you should have a podcast, and no, you should not talk about the thing that you do, because nobody cares. The podcast is like Coinbase. It's an exchange. It's a place where we can exchange relationship capital. So I would think about who do I want on my podcast, and I would create a podcast that those people would want to be on. It's super easy. I would make a podcast that I want influential entrepreneurs to want to come on my podcast. Let me tell you the truth about really famous people and celebrities. They're just like you. They read the reviews, they read those notifications. Somebody tagged me, they want to see what it says, right? They look at this stuff. Amanda Francis was tagged in one of our reels. She responded. I responded back. That's how you just become relevant. Amanda Francis is like, who the heck's talking about me? And then they dive into you. And so again, like they're looking at oh, look, they're putting out this content. So you become relevant. Instant relevancy. So whatever the circle is, social media is a great place to become relevant.
On their social media posts, they're like, here are my favorite Amazon picks. If anybody follows like people that clean houses on TikTok or like cleaning hacks, what do? Here are my favorite Amazon picks. Interior designers, here are my favorite Amazon picks. So they are a retail store. You go and you purchase, and they gather all their leads from influencers that have their favorite picks. They are brilliant in the way that they market and sell.
If you are not happy, and I love this line from Jared Yellen. You got to listen to that podcast. Jared Yellen was on None of Your Business, dropped this line. Never let someone else complete your dream. If you've ever said like, oh man, I had that idea. Yeah, but they did it. They did it. So if you're like, dude, I had the idea to sit and play video games for 12 hours straight. Good, you did that. High five. But if you were like, I had the idea to, set my kids up for legacy wealth, but you didn't do it, and there are other people who managed to do it, they completed on your dream. So if I'm a visionary and I come up with all the great ideas, who determines which of my great ideas are actually great? And it's kind of hard that it's me, because I came up with the idea.
It can't be you. Of course you
so
think your
of course I
ideas
think
are
it's great. So if I'm coming up with these ideas, I necessarily, in my system, need to have someone that I'm like, hey, Lacey, I think this is a phenomenal idea, and they need to have permission to say that is a terrible idea. You need to determine someone needs to be the visionary, someone needs to be the discernment who decides that these are great ideas, and it should not be the same person, and then someone, and all of these can be multiple people, then someone needs to take that ball and execute. They need to say, I know exactly what you're dreaming up, let me go and see if I can make that happen. That's what makes for a successful business.